I would love to bring in two of my friends, Issa Imbambolo and Gopar Tsaktida from Lusaka, Zambia, and Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, respectively. Good morning, my friends. How are you today?
Good morning, Jen.
Hi, we're doing very well. Thank you.
Great to see you both, that we got you up and running live here. It's just awesome to have some time to spend chatting with you. Both Issa and Gopar are part of an organization called the Mennonite Central Committee. You may or may not have heard of MCC. Again, MCC traces its roots back through the Anabaptist tradition and is a 100-year-old organization that does amazing work in the field of peace and development and relief all around the world. We would love to just give some more light to the great work of an organization like this that we're in discussions with about how we could potentially partner together, and just hear from some pastors and church leaders and people who are representatives of MCC like Issa and Gopar. So we'd love to just dive in, similar to how we chatted with some of our friends yesterday. Maybe both of you, maybe we could start with you, Issa. Just give us a bit of an understanding of what is life on the ground right now like in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. What's the impact been where you are?
Life is down in Zambia and the surrounding countries. In Zambia and the surrounding countries, economies are informal. They're not just like in the West. And people just people do not depend on a government systems support. It's just from hand to mouth. And therefore, when all the economic activities are paralyzed, incomes comes down, and everything is, at rest. So lockdown means no income and no survival. Churches are affected, no tithe, no offerings, and life is hard.
Right. So similar to one of our guests yesterday, who was speaking to us from Colombia, what I've gathered from my conversations with you is that the impact in terms of sickness and people contracting the disease is not necessarily extremely high relative to other countries, but it's more the downstream economic impact. And we also talked a little bit in the last couple of weeks about the impact socially, the impact to what it means to communities and being able to relate to one another. Gopar, I wonder if you would be able to just shine some light on that impact for us.
Yes, thank you so much, Matt. Although Zambia and Zimbabwe and probably most African countries have low number of COVID-19 confirmed cases and deaths, but the downstream impact is very significant. For example, in Africa, churches thrive on social interaction and communal participation, such as wedding, church attendance, gathering, funeral, festivals. All of those they define the kind of life that we have in Africa. So people you don't need to be invited to come to all of these festivals, these activities, because social interaction is part of our life. But so we live in community, communally. Individual life is not what we are used to. So being in isolation severely impacts the life of the church and the life of people emotionally, mental health, sense of community. More than that, in rural areas, there are nothing like internet, and so source of communications is completely broken down, and so nothing like online services. All of those have been paralyzed as a result of lockdown.
That's so good. I love how you remind us and give us a window into a church that thrives on relationship, that thrives on community, that thrives on interaction, which means it's harder even in a time like this, but it's such a refreshing reminder of what a healthy church family and community looks like. Maybe you could both just give us a sense of what are churches that you know, churches in your areas, doing right now? What are they responding with? How are they engaging with their communities? How is the love of Jesus being shown on the ground where you are? I know you've got some great stories to tell.
Yeah, in Zambia, church leaders attend daily media briefing on COVID-19. And before they attended these briefings, remember before the COVID-19, churches had savings. And this is the moment they are pulling up some money from the savings. They are collecting resources that are needed at this moment. and donate to the government instead of depending on the government. Now it's the church pulling up resources and give to the government and ask the government to distribute these resources to everyone without looking at their religious background, whether they're Christians or not, without looking at their political background. But the church is being, the government is being encouraged to distribute these resources across the board to the people who are needy.
And can I jump in? I also just want to add here that the church is involved in creating awareness for the prevention of the spread of COVID-19. And so the church is using a different means of communication through WhatsApp to communicate that. And the church and one of our partners are involved in what we call COVID-19 advocacy. What that means is that there were not enough isolation centers. And so the church and this partner are tasking the government to create more isolation centers for COVID-19. And then another area of advocacy is the decentralization of testing centers. In Zimbabwe, for example, there was only one testing center in Harare, which is the capital city of Zimbabwe. But the church has actually motivated the government to create more testing centers. And so some of the cities are able to get testing centers right now as we speak. Another area that the church is involved in is pushing the government to allow for the movement of food and essential supplies. Because the tendency, especially during lockdown, is also for the food not to be available. But then the church is working very hard to ensure that people do not suffer severely, to reduce the suffering by making sure that food and essential supplies are available.
I love the picture that you both are painting of a church that is engaged. It's engaged in physically showing the love of Jesus. And I know that you do it with the love of Jesus in mind, because I know the organization you work with, I know the churches that you're working with. You're bringing that engagement to the community to show leadership as churches. I love the story of churches even consisting of a lot of poor people, pooling together what they have, bringing it to the government and saying, hey, can you just share this with everyone? And I know, Issa, you told me too that your hope in that, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I'm remembering you tell me this, your hope in that is that that'll actually be a way for people to see, hey, if that's a Jesus that these people serve and love, I'm interested in maybe getting to know who that is because he's showing our whole community love. I love the way you're modeling that for us. We have so much to learn from you. Hey, before we wrap up this time, I wish we could go on a whole lot longer. Maybe you could just share with us one or two things real briefly that we can be praying about for you. Maybe we'll start with Issa and then Gopar if you'd love to offer something up. We'd love to hear something we can pray about for you.
Yeah, one of the requests would like to put across is COVID-19 has been, a big pandemic that has affected the whole world. And therefore, one request is, can God give the wisdom, the knowledge to our scientists so they can find vaccine and medicine for the treatment of this pandemic? And the second request would like to put across is, politicians have taken advantage of COVID-19 and they have politicized the whole aspect. And therefore, we are also asking if the church can help us to pray for national unity and global solidarity.
And I just want to add that initially when this COVID-19 started, many people, especially around here, were very concerned, especially with the lockdown and the closing down of churches. And so people were very, very concerned. But later on, they realized that actually they can worship God anywhere, in their homes and anywhere. And so many people are saying that the devil is actually in trouble right now as we speak, because more and more people are praying in many homes. Before, you're in the church, normal church service, we have one person praying at a time, one person preaching at a time. But now, more and more people are praying at home, various homes. And so they say the devil is in trouble. And I feel like we need to pray and encourage people that even if as they worship God at their homes, that they should be strengthened and continue in that life. And I hope too that let this be a wake-up call for us as a church, You know, we were married to go into a building called church, but we need to reimagine what it means to be church at this moment. So I think we need to, it's the wake-up call for that. The last thing I want to say here is that COVID-19 affects everyone. So it provides an opportunity for us to reinforce community mindset, sharing with one another what we have. So it is surviving together rather than survival of the fittest. I hope that we continue with this kind of mindset. This would be my prayer item.
Wow, we need to reimagine what it means to be the church. Amazing. Guys, thank you so much. Every time I've talked to you recently, I just get this sense of hope and encouragement. I love your energy. I love your passion for following Jesus. Thanks so much for your time and being with us today. We'll be praying for you.
You're welcome, Jen.